Attention, please. Sorry, folks. We actually, the facility has misplaced their microphones. So I would like to ask everybody to be respectful of the speakers so that you can hear them and they can at least get a sense that we're listening to them. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming out and enjoy the event. Use it to make some connections, please.
Okay, hey there. Welcome everyone for taking the time to come down. My name's Kevin Kozakevich. I'm the host, the person who worked very effortlessly in making this group along with the help of many other individuals. Kevin's a very big member. There's Jalal, there's Jonathan Whitson, and there's a whole bunch of other people that really took the time in helping to make this event. It's our first event, so we're really asking the feedback from every one of you, taking the time after this event to say what you did like, what you didn't like, and together, based off feedback, it will decide where we take this event, whether we'll have a next one, what will change, whether we do it more of a Bazaar style, maybe just as entrepreneurs listening to the presenters. It's all completely up to you guys where we take the working as fluid as possible in this. So at the moment, there's 50,000 unemployed individuals across Winnipeg right now looking for work, and more that the government is unaware of right now. It's astronomical when you think of how our city boasts our unemployment rate as incredibly low compared to the rest of Canada. Our job markets are fierce, competition is strong, and with the mass mechanization of our society, this will only get worse. As entrepreneurs, we work for ourselves, dedicate and dictate our own hours, find new exciting markets to work in. We innovate, grow, and develop on industries that others thought have already reached their peak. It is a proven fact that everyone here today has more potential than they ever thought would be possible. Work for Equity is a nonprofit organization made with the principle in mind of working together with entrepreneurs and helping them create more jobs for Canadians. This event is one of the key ways we hope to start this initiative by bringing together new entrepreneurs, speakers, investors, and mentors. This event will become a breeding ground for new business ideas, innovations, and partnerships. Everything for this event has been graciously donated by those who believe in our cause, including the table rent for each vendor. For everyone interested in helping out in your cause, please go to workforequity.ca FAQ for more instructions on how to do it. I'd like to take this time to talk about Sheila Danko, our first motivational and very skilled speaker of the day. Sheila Danko is a highly skilled entrepreneur of 3 diversified businesses, each creating residual income: Danko Estates, Danko Farms, and Usana. She knows a little something about the importance of leveraging your time to earn more money while requiring less work. She uses the same strategies, principles, and philosophies to create success in each endeavor she pursues. She is currently writing her first book, Wealth Wears Stilettos: 9 Steps to Building a Networked Marketing Empire, which will be available in the spring. She is a leader, speaker, trainer, coach, business mentor, blogger, author, and entrepreneur. Please welcome Sheila Danko on the stage as she shares her moving story, answering the cosmic 2x4.
Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here and be your opening speaker and sharing my story with all of you entrepreneurs. Did you know that the heart attack rate goes up by 35% on Monday morning between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. and that the stress from our jobs is literally killing us? And I felt this threat firsthand, not only once but twice, before it helped me make a decision to live a different life. See, my life 20 years ago was very, very different. I was working for the second largest computer company in the world. I clawed up my way up that corporate ladder to be managing multi-million-dollar projects all over Western Canada. And at this time, I practically lived out of a suitcase away from my 2 young daughters, Raquel, age 5, who is now with us and grown up, and my daughter Jasmine, age 2, as well as my loving husband who looked after them while I was away all the time. And it was a Monday morning, and I returned from yet another business trip. And I was so tired, but I got the kids ready and I dropped them off at the babysitters, and I drove in from Bazaar, where I still live today, to downtown Winnipeg where I was working. and I wasn't feeling very well. I was just exhausted. You know that feeling you're just dragging yourself out, and I was sitting at my desk, and I started feeling kind of this tightness in my chest. And I just chose to ignore it like normal, and that tightness grew. And it grew, and I really started feeling really unwell. And so I thought, I just need to relax. So I just did some deep breathing, just try to relax. And those chest pains, more I was trying to relax, more they intensified. To the point I was thinking, is it possible that at the age of 32, I could be having a heart attack? Is that possible? I thought, what am I supposed to do if it is a heart attack? So what do you think a woman at the age of 32 on a Monday morning does when she's having, or thinks she has a heart attack? I drove myself to the Health Science Center emergency. And luckily, there wasn't a 6-hour wait list at the time, and they took me in right away, and rushed me into a room, and they put these electrodes on and this EKG thing, and the doctor came in, and he looked at the information, and he looked at me, and he said, well, Mrs. Dancho, the good news is you're not having a heart attack. Whew, that was great. But the bad news is we think it's a blood embolism in your lungs, because you just returned from a trip, and you're a high risk in having a blood embolism. So we're going to keep you in overnight. We're going to do some tests, and we're going to put you on blood thinners right away in case it is a blood clot. And then he walked out, leaving me lie there on the bed, scared. Well, actually beyond scared. I was terrified. I was actually, really scared. And I was thinking, blood embolism, that's like a blood clot. Well, what happens if it lets go and it hits my heart? I could have a heart attack, which I thought I'm having. But then, what happens if it's a blood clot and it lets go and it hits my brain? I could be having a stroke. I could die. I could die. My life could be over right now. Wow, what a wake-up call that was for me. And that was, sometimes, I don't know if you ever noticed, but that little voice in your head, that intuition, whispers to you, and you kind of choose to ignore it, right? And then it talks a little louder, and you decide not to answer that door. And it has to get your attention. So what does it do? It sends this cosmic 2x4, boom, between the eyes to say, wake up, make a different decision, do something different. So as I laid in that hospital bed, I made a decision. I decided that this wasn't the life I really wanted. I wanted to have a better life for me and my family. I wanted to have a life filled with more time freedom, more fun, and more wealth. And at that moment, at that decision, that gave me hope. It gave me hope, and when you have hope in the future, it gives you power in the present. So when I got out of that hospital, not feeling well, and the good news is it wasn't a heart attack, and it wasn't a blood embolism, but it was a major and severe anxiety attack that they didn't talk about much back then. That was my wake-up call. And I didn't know how I was going to change my life. As Les Brown says, how is none of your business. Just trust that you will have the people, places, and circumstances come into your life that will answer your prayer. So shortly after I got out of the hospital, I had a phone call from a complete stranger. He said there was a new business coming to Winnipeg. And would I be interested? Now, my first reaction was, I'm so sick and tired. I don't think I can even do one more thing. I'm overwhelmed already. Anyone ever feel that way? They're overwhelmed? We can all probably relate to that. But then he said this company manufactured exceptionally high quality nutritional supplements, and that could help me with my health. So I thought, this is interesting. Is this a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. I think it was meant to happen. So I met with him. I looked at the information, and my first reaction to him was, look, I'm not interested in the business at this point. I'm interested in rebuilding my health. So I started on the products, and the products started helping me. Within a very short while, my energy levels came back, my mental clarity came back, and I started feeling like my old self again. Then I took a look at the business seriously, along with my husband. We looked at the business and we said, could this be the opportunity that we've been praying for that can change my life for the better, to give me that time freedom, financial freedom. So I decided to pursue the business as well, along with my full-time career that was very demanding, along with my 2 little girls and my commutes, my travel. I decided to pursue the business part-time. Now, was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. It was challenging. It required persistence, and it required commitment. Now, there's 3 levels of commitment. There's the commitment level, I'll try. So a lot of people who get involved in businesses, their own businesses, are going to try. Well, as entrepreneurs in this room who are successful, you know that I try stage means I'm going to fail. They're admitting that they're going to get 3 no's, some rejections, some disappointments, and they're going to quit, right? Well, my level of commitment was the second level of commitment. I said I'm going to do my best. And people who do their best generally make some money, right? You do your best and make some money. You don't quit the first obstacle. Until I had the next cosmic 2x4 hit me between the eyes. It was a January Thursday night, and I was working on a proposal that was due the next day at noon. And it was 11 o'clock. I was 5.5 months pregnant at the time with my 3rd child. And I was going to bed at 11 o'clock. I was working on the proposal all night. It was on my laptop computer, which was pretty big back in those days. And I looked out the window, and it was raining. Raining in January. I had that chill. You know, it goes down your spine sometimes, and this isn't really a good thing. I went to bed. I woke up about 4 hours later because I had to get that darn proposal done. And I looked out the window, and it was white, a beautiful blanket of fresh, glistening snow. It was like when the moonlight hit the snow, it was like diamonds shining. Beautiful, but deadly. Because that rain froze into black ice. Now there's all this fresh snow on the black ice. And I had to go from Bazaar to Winnipeg to get the proposal to the office, plug in my laptop, print it, and deliver it to the customer by noon. People say, well, why didn't you email it? Well, this was 20 years ago. This had to be delivered, hand-delivered, 3 copies, signed to the customer. So 7:30 in the morning, get my car strap on the seatbelt, put it under my belly, because I'm 5.5 months pregnant, hands on the steering wheel, white knuckle drive all the way in. I was going down Highway 59 by the bridge over Spring Hill, and then my car started swerving this way, and then that way, and then this way. And I was starting to lose control. And the car started sliding into the ditch. And I remember the snow piling up on the window, and then the car rolling once, twice, on the roof, sliding. And then I heard the window smash out, wasp my face, and snow in my face. And then it was quiet. And then when I came to, I was hanging upside down with the seatbelt holding me into place. And I kind of got my bearings, undid the seatbelt, slid out, and realized, oh, I have to go back and get my purse and the cell phone and the laptop and all this stuff. Before I knew it, the ambulance was there. They were rushing me to Winnipeg, and they had me in the observation room, and they did the ultrasound, and they said, I don't know how you're not injured or the baby. It's a miracle. It really is. Everything looks fine, but we have to keep you in for 24 hours observation because you could still trigger into having a miscarriage. And at 5.5 months, this is not the time you want to have a baby. So after I kind of collected myself, I looked at my watch. It was 1 o'clock. I thought, oh, I missed the deadline. They won't let me out of the hospital. What am I going to do? I'm going to call the customer. So I called the customer. Ring. Customer, look, I'm sorry. I know I missed the deadline, but I rolled my car on the fresh ice. I'm 5.5 months pregnant. They won't let me out of the hospital. Can you give me an extension until Monday? Monday, 9 a.m., I will have it on your desk, this proposal. And what do you think the customer said?
Oh, dear God, are you okay?
No, that should have been what they said. You know what they said? They said, too bad, you missed the deadline, no excuses.
Wow.
Wow. Cosmic 2x4 number 2, straight between the eyes. as I laid there, devastated, I just about killed myself, my unborn child. And for what? For what? I thought that was the moment when I decided to take the commitment level from I'll do my best to I'll do whatever it's going to take to get this business, my part-time business, to a 6-figure income before this baby is born. And that's what happened. So I worked at it. Now be careful what you wish for, because to get to this level was called a gold director. I had to qualify for 4 weeks of volume requirements, substantial volume requirements. I was 8 months pregnant. Week 1 of qualification, complete, made it, great. Week 2 of qualification, great, made the volume requirements. Week 3 of volume requirements, great, made it. Week 4, this is the week I'm due. I am now 9 months pregnant. I am due. This is the week of qualification. Wednesday, I started having labor pains. I think, oh no, this is Wednesday. This is my last week. I can't go into labor now. Like, oh, what do? Do I give up on my goal because I'm going to be having a baby? Or what do I do? But I decided that my commitment level was to do whatever it's going to take. So I decided to call my team and lean on my team to help me get through this and hit my goal. Because I did it for my family so that I could be at my family and have the freedom to raise my children after the way I want to. So in between contractions, and you remember this, in between contractions I was calling people. As my husband was driving me to the hospital, I remember calling and said, Roy, I'm on my way to the hospital. I'm going to be having this baby soon. But I need your help. My volume, I'm short. Can you put an order in? And Roy said when he got home and he heard the phone call, he said, well, how can I not? Woman's having a baby. I mean, I had to put the volume on. I went, yeah, I'll put an order in for you. And so I got to the hospital. The nurse said, man, you kind of shut off your phone. You're going to be having a baby. And I looked at her like, oh, okay. So I went into full labor. I labored all night. I'm not a quick deliverer. In the morning, labored. Anyway, had the baby the next day. My mother came, my mother-in-law came, my sister-in-law came, the kids came, the blues, and the chocolates, and all this stuff, and did all that. Had a good night's sleep Friday when I got up around lunchtime, took my phone out of my purse, and turned it on. And then I had a phone call, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, from my friend Linda, who said, congratulations, you made your goal. You're a goal director. Yes, hallelujah, I did it. What an amazing week, the biggest week of my whole life, having a brand new, beautiful baby girl by the name of Hope. And we named her Hope because that's how I feel, that when you really do have hope in the future, it gives you power in the present. So, that was an amazing year. But getting back to all of you, what is it going to take for you to reach your goals? What is it going to take for you? Well, first of all, it starts with a decision. Decide that you are going to be successful at whatever your entrepreneurial business is. Second, it takes commitment. The level of commitment, you'll do whatever it's going to take to be successful. But I believe there's 5 words I can share with you that's going to help inspire you to keep pursuing your dreams. And these 5 words are very powerful. These 5 words, I believe, and give entrepreneurs like you the power to keep going. These 5 words are what are going to govern your decisions. These 5 words, I believe, will help you make the decisions to become successful. These 5 words are the will to do it. The will to do it. So as you look at your life today and your businesses and into the future of 2017, what will it take for you to pursue your dreams? The will to do it. So I want you to repeat after me. After I ask a question, just repeat with me the will to do it, okay? You're going to play with me? Great. So what will it take for you to build your businesses this year? The will to do it. What will it take for you to keep going despite discouragements and maybe creditors breathing down your neck and your family members telling you you're crazy to pursue it? What will it take?
The will to do it.
What will it take for you to keep on keeping on, be committed to your commitment? The will to do it. What will it take for you to keep going even when others are quitting around you the will to do it? What will it take for you to bring out the high achiever in you and bring out the billionaire in you? The will to do it. The will to do it. So 20 years ago, my life was hard, but I made a decision and a commitment to change it. And was it worth it? Absolutely, it was worth it. So today, make the commitment to your dreams. Don't wait. Don't wait for that cosmic 2x4 to hit you between the eyes. Make the commitment today to have the courage to pursue your dreams. And remember, it's never too late to live the life you truly want. It just takes the will to do it. Thank you.
If I may, again, I'm sure all of you guys are well aware of this, being vendors and other shows, is make sure that your phones are silenced or at least quiet, not off. But keep selling, keep them on, keep them quiet. Thanks.
Wow, that was truly inspirational, Sheila. I very much thank you for that and sharing it all. I hope everyone felt a similar way about it and really take some of it to heart and really learn a little bit from it. The next person, I gotta go for it. The next amazing person is Bryson Johnson, right here. Bryson Johnson is a highly motivated individual and a talented man. I recommend everyone here who wants to become an entrepreneur to follow him on social media. It is amazing to see what people can do when they put their mind to it and push towards their goals with a sense of purpose. The path to success is never easy, and I welcome Bryson right now to the front and talk about how he overcame his difficulties and used them to get to where he is today. Bryson Johnson.
Hello everyone, my name is Bryson Johnson. I thank Kevin very much for the awesome introduction. For those of you who may not know who I am a speaker, I'm a writer, I'm a fellow entrepreneur just like you guys. And today I'm going to be talking about something that I think everyone in this room can relate to, whether it is business, whether it is with life in general. It's about the idea of taking opportunities out of every single failure that we go through in life. So few people look at failures as a way to find opportunities to grow as people. When we do something that's different within our lives, when we do something that's important, especially when it's something to do with business, we're going to have opportunities to fail. We're going to have opportunities where we're going to try something new and we're not going to be good at it. We're going to do things that are just not going to work out. And that's completely okay. Because the fact is that when you're doing something different, you're bound to mess up. You're bound to make mistakes. And out of those mistakes is going to come new challenges and new breakthroughs that you're going to be able to inspire yourself to do. When we're doing different things, we're taking those failures, we're actually building more momentum to do better in the future. Every single time we make a mistake, every single time we do something that's wrong, we're learning how to not do that mistake again. So when we're taking the failures in life, we're actually taking more opportunity because we're learning not to do those same things again. Now I want to show you guys a little bit of a story about myself, give you more of a little bit of background of who I am. So I'm a musician. At the age of 11 years old, I started playing the drums. And when I first started playing the drums, I was not by any means good. I had no innate ability to play the drum set. I had no musical talent whatsoever. I first got interested in drums when I was playing in an orchestral band in junior high. And a friend of mine was showing me around on this drum set, and he was absolutely amazing on it. I could not believe I had never seen someone so intense on an instrument or anything else in my life. And when I watched this guy play, it was as though he had so much excitement, so much inspiration inside just to play with so much power. It just enticed me to want to do the exact same. So I remember watching this guy play, and I remember seeing him just take so much energy into this instrument that I knew I want to be that. I knew I saw this guy, and I was like, I'm just going to be that drummer one day. I want to be in his position one day. So after that day, I literally go into the classroom in our band group at school, and I would go in there every lunch hour, after school, whatever I need to, and I would take the time to practice the drum set. And I was not good by any means, once again. I had a lot of people that would come into the class and make fun of me. I had lots of kids who would yell really awful things to me to tell me to get off the drum set, and I just kept on pursuing it. I kept on going after it. Because when you have a passion inside, when you have that type of interest, where you're just so excited about something, it doesn't matter if you're not good at it, right? You just want to do it. So I kept on pushing, and I played for an year on a drum set. I just kept on failing around with it. And eventually what happened was, through the summer going from grade 7 to grade 8, my father was happy enough to give me the opportunity to rent a drum set. So I rented this drum set, and throughout the entirety of that summer, going from grade 7 to grade 8, I practiced every single moment of the day. Now you can imagine how loud my house must have been, especially for a kid who literally had nothing but time on his hands. So throughout that entire summer, I practiced every single day on that drum set. And every single time that I messed up on something, I knew that I was going to get better at it. Every single time I was failing at something, I was getting better at it, because by actually attempting to do something different, attempting to actually try and do something different, I was actually learning from each and every mistake. So the next year I came back to school, and I sat behind that drum set in front of all these kids that had made fun of me for so long. And I played my heart out. I played as hard as I possibly could, and kids actually were interested in me playing now. Kids actually cared that I was behind this drum set. And suddenly I was getting opportunities to play in bands with these people. I was getting to jam with them. I was getting to do these really cool things I never thought would happen when I first sat behind this drum set. And when I first started sitting behind this drum set, I had no intention but just literally having fun with it. Suddenly I was getting opportunities, because every single failure, every single time that I was messing up on the drum set, I was learning how to become better. By becoming better, opportunities became very, very relevant in my life. It became something that just would come to me without me even really trying. I was just very, very excited about the drums, and it came to me. So a few years passed, and I started creating my own bands. I started creating my own little groups of people that I would go out and jam with, have fun with. We eventually started playing local shows at different community centers, different venues around the city. And when we first started playing, we were absolutely awful. And I don't mean in the sense that our music was awful, I just mean in the sense that we were failures as bands. We did not have people that came out to shows. We did not have people that listened to our music. No one cared. We were failing at every single aspect that it takes to be a band. There's one particular incident that sits out in my mind, and it's actually at the graffiti gallery just down Higgins over here. It was one of my first ever shows. I played in front of an audience of 4 people, one of whom was a homeless woman and her dog. That was the type of crowd that we played in front of for the very first time, and it was absolutely embarrassing to talk about the next day at school, but I didn't care. We were failing, but I didn't care. I just wanted to play the drums. I wanted to play music. I was just so excited by these opportunities. A few years go by, and suddenly I'm starting to get a little bit better at this whole music thing. I'm starting to actually get a little bit more connections. I'm starting to actually connect with people that are on the same level as me as a musician, and we start playing some bigger shows. Suddenly I get the opportunity to start being a singer. Now this was a weird opportunity for me, because I had spent the last 6 years behind the drum set, and all of a sudden I was a singer. I had no idea how to stand in front of an audience. I had no idea how to hold the microphone and make noise. I had no idea what the heck I was doing whatsoever. And so what happened was, I was put in front of this situation where I had everything in front of me, and I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And I embarrassed myself many, many times. I would go up on stage and I would wear very, very, very tight pants. I would have long hair that was just unbelievably goth, I could say, emo, sweet. And I looked very silly, I sounded very silly, and I wasn't that good. But throughout every single show, I started getting better. People started showing up to shows. Suddenly people actually started getting interested in what we were doing. Suddenly people started actually listening to the words that I was saying. The first ever opportunity that I got to actually have some success in music came in April of 2011. I played at the Garrick Center to 750 people with 2 different local bands and 2 touring bands from the States. Now this is an opportunity that very few people within the music community get, because it's not something that comes around very often. So think about 7 years went by before I actually got that opportunity to start having a little bit of success. After failure, after failure, after failure. I kept on taking those opportunities to grow as a person, to grow as a musician, and become better through those opportunities. A few more years go by, and now people are really starting to take an interest. We're releasing music videos, we're releasing albums, we're touring across the country, we're doing a really, really cool thing. I was super excited about what we were doing. In April of 2013, I believe, I got to play in front of 10,000 people at the MTS Center. 10,000 people. Now this is 9 years after I started first playing the drums, doing absolutely nothing but just enjoying the drum set, just enjoying the fact that I was having this opportunity. I failed my way to being able to get those type of opportunities. And I'm not saying that I'm some sort of rock star. I'm not saying that I was touring with Metallica. I'm just saying that I took every single opportunity that I could to be better. Now, within business, within life, within anything, when we do something that we're really passionate about, that we really love, we're going to come to terms with our failures. We're going to come to the fact that we are going to mess up a lot. The only way that we're going to be able to succeed in anything is if we fail, because that's us at least doing something. That's at least going after something. The people who fail are the ones that get to that roadblock and stop completely. The people who fail are the ones that look at their failures and feel that they are their failures. So my message to you guys today is very, very simple. If you have the opportunity to fail, go after it, because there are so few chances that we have to actually do something great. And if you want to be great, if you want to do great, and whatever it is that you want to accomplish in life, you have to fail. So take every single opportunity that you can to fail and just grow from it. So I want to thank you guys very, very much for the opportunity, and my name is Bryson Johnson. Thank you guys very much.
I'd like to give everybody an opportunity who is standing. If you want, you can come to the back and grab yourself a chair.
Yep. Just like to say thank you to the person right over here. That was a very amazing speech, and I really appreciate him taking the time to come out here and give it was just phenomenal. The next person we have is Barry. Barry is a very talented individual who has worked amongst many of different industries during his career. As a former broadcaster on TV and radio for over 8 years, he's worked on everything from media, news, radio, podcast, films, and even producing 2 TV shows and a radio show. Barry strongly believes in helping the community and has founded many successful nonprofit clubs and organizations, as well as film groups and clubs. He has attended many seminars and workshops on the topic of networking and utilizes principles taught on a daily basis. Currently, he is the president of Manitoba Multimedia Foundation and a CNC citizen reporter. I would like everyone to give a warm welcome to Barry Copeland.
Okay, today I'm just going to talk about the power of networking. When I came to Winnipeg, I never heard this word before, maybe in the computer world, but not in the communications world. So I want to give you some examples of how network has helped me in my organization connect really qualified people and get some very highly lucrative projects. So 4 years ago, when I decided to enter the world of multimedia, as Kevin mentioned, I used to work on radio and TV, I decided to place an ad on Kijiji. Has anybody ever used Kijiji here? For recruitment? I was surprised when I did the ad on Kijiji, what kind of responses I got back. Some of them were from around the world. They were not just local. And they were also from very highly qualified schools that taught media, film, and broadcasting across the country. I said, yeah, placing an ad.
So yeah, it's good to see that you know this stuff.
All right, people, you have your attention again. We're going to get moving to the next speaker, so we don't go over time too much. The United Way is a great organization, but they all have lives too. So let's get this party rocking.
Yeah. All right. We're good. The next speaker is Jonathan Sneeden. He is the founder of a non-profit organization, the Economic Truth. The Economic Truth has over 10,000 followers in 30-plus countries. His organization analyzes current economic events, the monetary system, and geopolitical events from an objective standpoint. John is a leadership council member at Freedom Force International, an organization that promotes and educates economic freedoms with members in 78 countries. John is a contributor to World Alternative Media with economic reports and is featured in the upcoming documentary on both inflation and paper money. Let's give a warm welcome to John.
Okay, today we're gonna go on a very interesting trip down the history of money and how it actually comes to every single business today and person really needs to understand how money actually works. Now, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to ask you guys a question. I have a $100 bill here, and then I got 1/10 of a gram of gold here. Which one would you prefer? And if you guys could just raise your hands when I hold it up, and then I'm going to do it at the end of my presentation too. So, how about this one? Okay. How about this one? Wow, that is very impressive actually. That's never happened to me before, so let's get going. Okay, so we're going to go into the history of money. And the first country that we're going to visit on our little tour is, of course, the Roman Empire. They were the first ones to create money in coinage form back in the day. And they, of course, throughout history, they were known for the rise and the fall over the 500 years that they existed. Now, the way they rose into power was because they could print their own currency and they had the government in control over their currency. And right here, I actually have what's called the 1 denarius. It's from 212, year 212, and it's worth about today $300 with the numismatic value and so on. But what I found interesting is what the Roman Empire did, and I'm going to go back to what Canada did just last century. Is they called they based their currency. What that means is they actually take the silver that was in this currency, and then they took out more of the valuable metals and replaced it with another metal, but it still had the same face value of the actual coin. So 1 denarius is 90% silver, and it has 1 face value. Now, what they did in 2012, in year 212, was that they created what's called the 2 denarius, and the 2 denarius had only 50% silver in it, and it actually had less silver than the 1 denarius. So now they created a currency, the money with the number 2 on it, and it actually had more value, but actually less value if you looked at the content in the coin. Now, going back to these two guys, the content in this one here is basically worth maybe like 30 cents. So this $100 bill is worth 100 cents. No, about 30 cents, so on. This guy here is about the same size, but it's worth about $14, like this little thing here. So what happens is our conception of money and how we look at the value of what that money has. And I'm going to go into like how the government actually use what's called fiat legal tender money and how they use it into society and how it gets misused over time. We're going to start our little history in China. They were the first one to invent paper money in the world. In year 1023, they had the Song Dynasty invent the first money, and I'm very grateful. I've been able to actually find one of the first plates that was used to on the paper currency that they had in China. This one here is probably around 1,000 years old. But here you see people moving coinage around and so on, and it tells you that if you actually replicated this currency, they would chop your head off. So it was a warning of counterfeiting of money, a little bit harsher than today's prison sentences. Now, what China did, and the second thing they did after they invented the paper money, like first of all, with paper money, it's usually something that backs it, that has value. What the Sung government did, they had 29% of the total value of all their money that they printed. It was backed by their coinage, their copper coinage that they had, which their copper coinage looked like this. So this is their copper coinage. It's actually, it gives a little bit of value to their money, their paper money that they had. Now what happened is they also invented credit at that time. So what they did is they started to borrow money to people, and people started to feel wealthy. They actually, when you read in Chinese history books, they told about the economic miracle, how people suddenly, felt very rich and wealthy. Well, it created a new middle class was emerging, it says, which is new class because without debt you can't have a middle class. You will have rich and poor. It's that simple. So what happened over time, too many people wanted this debt, and they didn't have a valuable business created when they took on this debt. They didn't innovate. They stopped producing goods and services, and they started to financialize, and they started to go and bet on stocks and other paper forms of money. And what happened over time, that debt that was unproductive, I call it, which is not really backed by good businesses, creating something of value to the population. What happened over time is that the currency started to become so overwhelming. It was flooding the markets. And what people saw is they started to see, well, this $100 bill is not buying me the same as it did when I was 50 years ago or 20 years ago. So that's called inflation. That's the hidden tax that most people don't know about, is when the increase in money through debt or whatever it is in the Canadian dollar, Norwegian krone, wherever you are in the world of currency, that actually, when prices rise, it's actually not that rising, it's the money that you have being less and less worth. So if you don't understand inflation as a business, you do have to make money somehow to actually fight that inflation, because for example in my home country Norway, it suddenly bumped from 0.2 up to 4.5 this year. What happens at that time, if you only get a bump in your salary or in your increase in what you get from your business, now let's say you got 2% increase in your salary or in whatever you made from your business. Now you actually have lost 2.5% that year from your last year. So you can see that the inflation, how money loses its value over time, actually really is a force fighting against you when you try to make money. You've got to make more and more and more and more money in order to survive. And this is what happened in China. And what happened in China was suddenly people started to see that their currencies started to become quite worthless to buy them things. It was way too much to actually go out and buy something, a commodity like food, whatever it was. And people said, well, I don't want to have this money anymore. It's not really worth anything. So what they did, of course, is they started to move to other valuable assets like gold and silver and so on. And suddenly the value, as you can see on the currency, just started to drop in the 1100s. This is not the first time it happened. Of course, you have war coming into the picture as well at the end of an empire. Look at the United States, for example, all the perpetual wars that the United States have brought the world into. And it comes at the end of the value, when the value of a currency actually starts to lose value. That's when they really are starting to ramp that up in order to try to hide, what they actually did with the currency that we had. So in 1100s, there was wars between two fractions in China, and what's called the Qing government took over. And what they did is they looked at what the Sung Empire did, and it's like, holy smokes, this is a whole new thing to do. They created so much value for themselves. But the thing is, they didn't understand, they created that value, and then it got destroyed after. So they created their own currency because they saw what the other government had done. And you can see here again, it takes about 50 years. Let's see, this one here is about 70 years. And then suddenly the value drops again. And it's the same perpetual story of them printing too much money and like having it available for people, and then the money loses value over time, and suddenly that money has so little value that it's not really buying anything anymore, and people just say like, I'm not going to deal with it anymore, and that's when your currency loses value. Any currency could lose its value by simply you saying like, I don't want to have the Canadian dollar anymore. We go to zero in value. That $100 bill will become really useful only for the petroleum product that it was made out of. So that's how governments did it back in the day, and that's where I'm going to talk and go into how we're not learned throughout history. There was several like empires throughout about 300 years in China until they got fed up with this paper money. It didn't work. Like there was just economic cycles, booms and busts, and they went back to precious metals again, the Ming dynasty from 1300s, and it lasted about 300 years again. So what happened though was there was a traveler that came and saw what's happening in China, and his name was Marco Polo. I'm going to tell you guys what he actually said. Marco Polo said in his Travels of Marco Polo biography, he said, all these pieces of paper are issued with as much solemnity and authority as if they were pure gold and silver. And indeed, everybody takes them readily, and whomsoever a person may go throughout the great Khan's empire's dominion, and he shall find these pieces of paper current, and shall be able to transact all sales and purchases of all goods means of them just as well as if they were coins of pure gold. So that was his way of describing what's happening in China during the 1100s to 1300s. Well, there was a lot of merchants traveling to China, of course, and they bumped into this idea. So the realm of the paper currency might have died in Asia, but just started in Europe. So in the 1600s, the Swedes, I like to make fun of the Swedes. I'm Norwegian, so they're my neighbors, so I always like to make fun of my friends, the Swedes. For some reason, the Swedes didn't have access to gold and silver. So what they did with their currency, they have massive 40-pound slabs that they use for transacting goods. Yeah, it's pretty funny, actually. And what they did is they, of course, used this money and transacted with each other during trade with businesses and whoever needed to use money. Now, as you can see, they came to their senses a little bit because in the 1660s, a guy called Palmstruck, one of the first private bankers in the world, he said to himself, well, how about we make it very much simpler and we just have the copper, I can make 25 notes saying that it still has value. We could store all that heavy metal in a vault somewhere, and you don't have to worry about it, because the big problem was that when they came for the taxes, the government, they got stuck everywhere with their carriages, and it was very hard to like move this money around. So they went to paper certificates as money. And what they did with this was, of course, over time again, when they started with having some form of backing, they was actually backed the full amount by whatever copper they had. Now, over time in 1663, they started to overprint this currency, which always happens because greed leads into the power to actually create money out of thin air and then going and buying stuff with it and becoming very wealthy with it. That actually takes over a lot of times. So in 1663, Sweden took away the backing of the actual value of the copper, and now it's just paper. Like our current system today is not backed by any physical metal or any value. The only thing that this thing is backed upon is the government's ability to tax you. That's the actual value that $100 bill has. Now, of course, what happened was it failed quite rapidly, the value of this currency, and by 1666, Palmstruck got sentenced to death by hanging. Now, the Swedes, of course, the Swedish government, which has the oldest central bank in the world, they took notice to what Palmstruck did, and they said, well, this is kind of a good idea, but we hung him for treason. But what they did is, of course, in 1668, they created the first central bank in the world. And then, of course, in 1745, they went off their backing again, and the currency failed, and then, of course, they went back to gold and silver again, and then it came back up again. So The Swedes went through their own cycle, and then of course this system flooded Europe. All over Europe, you have the Dutch, the Spanish. Whoever got their hands on this created this currency, and there was about 400 currencies that came into existence in Europe in about 200 years, and then failed and came back again in different forms or ways with this paper money. Now, I'm going to go quickly over to the French Revolution, and the cause of it was actually the loss of value of their currency again. Now, of course, I'm going to tell a quick story about John Law, a Scottish economist that came in, and he came to France and created the Banque Royale. They issued money. They created a company called the Mississippi Company. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about that company before, but they prospected into the United States to find, the promised land, to find new ways of getting money into the system. Now, this Mississippi Company is the first stock bubble that ever happened. You can see the value of it. Just within 1 year, it went from about 200 livres, which was the French currency, all the way up to 10,000 at the top, and then it fell quite rapidly, actually, as people started trading this between each other, just like we have the New York Stock Exchange, or like whatever stock exchange you use. And they started trading it, and you can see as they traded, the value went up, but then after a time, people started questioning the actual value of that company. What was their price-earnings ratio? Like, did they actually make money in this company? And so on, and they saw it. Maybe it's just a promise of fraud, and it was a fraud, and then the stock just completely loses its value. Now, John Law didn't give up there. He actually came back again in France, and he was able to get in with the king and the queen and lobby with them. And what he did is they had a hard time with their currency, with the gold and silver and so on. And it was not very easy for the king and the queen to actually create a whole bunch of money and get into a whole bunch of debt and buy and stuff, because they were personally accountable to that debt if they went into it and then defaulted on it. Now, what they actually found out, we need to back it by something. This is again, the history repeats itself. And what they actually backed their wealth with, they took all the Vatican's vast resources in France, stole it from the Vatican, and then backed their currency by it. Now, the assignat, of course, as any politicians or anybody that wants to, spend money on creating wealth, they believe. Of course, again, you can see as the French Empire, they also had their struggles. They, of course, in 1792, their currency had lost over 20% of their value already in just 3 years. Now they had the Legislative Assembly, and then they said, well, we need to devalue our currency. We need to print more money, and because we got so much more debt, we need to print a whole bunch of more money to pay off our old debt. So what they did is they did that, and you can see the values started dropping again. Now, they said, well, we're in a bigger problem now. They had the National Convention in 1793. They did the exact same thing again. They went into more debt. They did what's called today deficit spending. And what you see, their currency dropped again. And of course, what happened over time, you had a coup d'etat, and Napoleon took over. Napoleon had enough, and all the people, they started starving because they couldn't afford anymore with the worthless paper money that the assignat had become again. So they took a coup d'etat, and Napoleon actually, how bad it was, he restored the French currency back to gold and silver again. Now, so you can see there's a pattern starting to happen where it moves between gold and silver and paper. It's been the big fight for the last 1,000 years that people have forgotten about. Now, I call this the first bailout. Remember in 2008, they bailed out the banks and everybody else. And the first bailout, though, happened in the British Empire, which the royals learned that when they spent money and got into a whole bunch of debt, it was like, well, I'm personally accountable for this debt. The bankers are going to come after me and want that money or my wealth. So there's well, we can create a nation, a government, and then we can attach that money to that government, and then we could have people pay taxes to that government. And what we could do with that is now they are accountable for all the debt that we spend and create. So that's what they did, and you can
Has
see.
a wide variety of career experience in nearly every industry, including finance, marketing, sales, and warehousing. His mission is to help people wherever he can, and spending 6 years in university learning how people think and do things the way that they do, he now helps people in one of the most important aspects of their lives, finances. Jonathan is becoming an important part in WFG in the financial industry within Manitoba. Everyone, please welcome a personal friend of mine, Jonathan Lipson.
Awesome. All right, so I am a memorizer of nothing. So if I look down at my paper a lot, that's why I'm doing that. Thanks a lot, Kevin, for that introduction, and thank you for having me here. So like you said, my name is Jonathan Lipson, and I'm a marketing director with World Financial Group. Just to quickly give you some background before I get into things here, our company started about 39 years ago when a football coach by the name of Art Williams looked around at the financial industry and didn't like what he saw. There were a lot of people getting taken advantage of by people in the financial industry. So Art started a company whose sole objective was to educate people on how money and debt and taxes work. I'm proud to say that today we're in alliance with over 75% of Fortune 500 banks, financial institutions, insurance companies. And even though we've only been around for a short time, we've surpassed companies that have been around for decades. So some companies you might have heard of, like Sun Life, Investors Group, Freedom 55. With over $500 billion in U.S. assets, we're dedicated to our philosophy of no family left behind, and we are completely rewriting the record books on how financial products and services are distributed and viewed around the world today. My own story is not quite that grand. I don't have $500 billion in the bank, so I'm not that cool yet. But I'll get there. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a financial advisor, and actually I'm curious. Did any of you grow up thinking that this is what you were going to do? You knew automatically that you were going to be a seller of soap, for example. Nobody? Okay, excellent. That's because that's crazy, right? There are so many better options out there. I could be an astronaut, a doctor, a lawyer. I could be the Green Lantern. Like, there's a lot of other things out there that I could be. I didn't start off in the financial industry, but it's the story of my life is there's a couple of things in there that got me here. So my parents were the middle-class types. They were the kind of people that you're going to go get a good job with a good pension and good benefits and take care of your family. That was their mission for me and my brothers. And the problem with that is that I had no real interest in practicing medicine. So for my dad to teach me to be a doctor, it wasn't really going to happen. My only interest in science was in science fiction. I wanted to poke fun and pull things apart and see how things work. And I absolutely couldn't be a lawyer. I'd seen too many TV shows and movies where the big rich guy beats on the poor little guy. I know that's not how law works in real life, but it totally ruined law for me. So anyway, at 18 years old, two things happened to me that really set me on a path and changed my life. So after graduating high school, I started my own business, and that's the first thing that happened. So it was a kitchen supplies business, and I had knives and cutting boards and cookware and all kinds of gadgets and stuff. And I thought that company was going to take me to the next level. I thought I was going to open up a consulting firm, and I was going to help out other entrepreneurs and business owners, and I was going to set up this giant referral network, and I was going to be the guy that everybody went to. It didn't really happen yet, but I'm working on it. And it's kind of funny, like I was 18 years old, and when you're 18 you think, I know everything, I've got all this potential, I'm going to do everything that I want to do. And a couple of years later you're like, wow, I was a crazy person. There are so many things I don't know, right? So I had this kitchen supplies business, and all these huge direct sales companies came out. Happy Cooker and Henkel got involved, and Pampered Chef, and all these different things. So what do you think that did to my business? It was over. I mean, it was very oversaturated. It made things very hard for me. So at the same time, my father actually passed away unexpectedly. He had a heart attack at the age of 52. And, my whole world shifted. I have three brothers. It was my mother. She spent so many years out of the workforce raising us. And to have the breadwinner of our family, it really got me thinking a lot of negative thoughts. So, it sent me running for the hills, basically. I thought I was going to stop my own business, and I didn't want to take the risk. I needed something secure. I was going to go work for a company that had the idea and the sales force and the whatever in place, so all I had to do was collect my paycheck every couple of weeks or every month, and I'd be good. So fast forward a couple of years later, and I've worked for 7 or 8 different marketing companies, and I've sold everything you can possibly think of: food products, cleaning products. I have sold baking products, wedding show stuff, photography service. You name it, I have basically sold it all. And the interesting thing was that while all this was happening, my lifestyle hadn't really changed. So I'll set the scene for you. You have your family of 5, and you have all these things and sports and cars and all the stuff that you want to do, and travel to visit family out of town, and we're Jewish, so bar mitzvahs was a huge thing, and going to birthday parties and all that kind of stuff. And I looked around and my life didn't really change. And I thought, how the heck is that possible? Nobody in my family works. I mean, my brothers and I work part-time, but nobody among us has like a real job. And we're still living in our family home, and we're still doing all the same thing. So I really took a look at that, and the answer turned out to be there was a plan. My parents had sat down with somebody and figured out a financial plan. God forbid the worst should happen. This is what's going to take care of us. And so I thought, this is a really valuable thing. This is what I'm going to do. So I made that my mission. I went to work for a life insurance company, and they told me they were a great company. They were a union company. They had the best rates because they're supporting the union. And when I found out that wasn't true, I left. I was very disappointed. I told everybody that I could beg, borrow, and steal about what happened to me, and some people from my old company actually followed me over to World Financial. And so that really brings me back to where we are today, because after bumping into WFG, I realized I could save my clients 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money they were spending every month to protect themselves and their families. So now I get to say I'm proud that I get to sit down with people and put them in a better financial position. So that's just a little bit about me and the company, and it's nice to be able to be here and tell you about this. So I'll bring it back to what we're talking about today. Kevin asked me to talk about a couple things here. I have done my best to lay this out. So one of the first things he asked me to talk about is raising capital. When you're starting a business, when you're starting a venture, what can you do? So there's a few different things I have up here, micro, meso, and macro levels. Who do you get money from? Where can you find it? How do you raise it? How do you collect it? All that sort of stuff. So the first source of money that you should definitely look at is your own. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. Like, I thought we borrow money to build a building and start a business and get stock and whatever. But the first source of money you look at is your own money. There's nothing more readily available, there's nothing easier to get a handle on, and there's nothing more that you know more about than your own wallet. Am I right? So, oh good, somebody answered, one person. I'll get you guys going eventually, I promise. So, your own money is the first thing. At the end of the day, there's nobody who cares more about your business and more about your success than yourself. So using your own money is a good place to start. Another common source of capital is family and friends, and we hear about that sometimes. People loan money from their family and friends to start a business. If you've ever seen somebody start a bakery, that's my favorite one, obviously, but that's one of the most common ways to do it. You get together with a couple of friends and you say, can you raise $60,000 and let's put this together.
$1 million from my dad.
Well, that's a good investment. I like that. That's awesome. So you can borrow money from other people, and depending on your family's financial situation, your friend's financial situation, maybe you do. You get a lot of money. It's possible. That's more on the micro level of money. So a relatively new way also on that level of raising capital is what we call crowdfunding. And I say relatively new because that idea has been around actually for a very long time. If you think about the businesses that started in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, what a lot of people did to get the capital together is they went around to their neighborhood, to their community. Some people used religious organizations, churches and synagogues and that. And they said, I want to start this business. It's a really good business. Can everybody donate a little bit and get me started? And communities were a little less spread out back then, so people really banded together and they did that. And that's the basic concept of crowdfunding. Now what we've done today is really modernize the concept. You can go online, you can get money from all over the world, from Joe in America and Nazir in Pakistan and all over the place, and pull together all kinds of money. The issues with crowdfunding, and there are only really a couple, are that you can't always rely on it, and you can't really go back to it. So people have to like your project in order to donate, and you can't really rely on it as a steady stream of capital because, you know, if 3 people donate the first time and 100 people donate the second time, you don't really know what you're going to have. But it can be a good way to put together a little money. So those are the micro-level sources of capital. And when your needs are bigger than that, you need to start looking at the meso and macro levels here. So is everybody with me so far? I'm talking. Okay, good. I'm worried. I was worried that people wouldn't be able to hear me, but I'm loud, so this is a good thing. Okay, so in the mesosphere, you've got things like private lenders, independently wealthy people, you know, the rich real estate agent or the network marketing person. I'm so sad Sheila's not here anymore. The network marketing person I was going to pick on, who's made a little bit of money. And those are the people you can talk to. You can talk to real estate investors with positive cash flow. If you really need money to start off, though, and your costs are 6 or 7 figures, you know, you want to buy this awesome golf course and you want to staff it and run it. If you need money in that sort of range, you don't want to piece it together from all those different littler investors. You can. It's a little cumbersome. It takes a lot of time and effort, but it's a lot easier to go to somebody with just a ton of money and say, hey, can you give me a loan? So on the macro level, you're talking about major venture capitalists, millionaires and billionaire investors, banks and private lenders. If you've ever heard of BDC, they're like the Bank for Entrepreneurs. They're a fantastic organization. And depending on what you're working on in your business plan, you might start at one level of funding and move your way up. You might graduate, you know, step by step, or you might go from the bottom to the top. It depends on what you're doing. The key to knowing where your business will most likely get funded it depends on having a solid business plan and a solid pitch. And we've heard Barry talk a little bit about the pitch, so I won't spend too much time on that. The 3 key elements for a pitch, though, and hopefully this works out, are your project. You need to answer the question, what is it? Your partners, who's involved, what do they do, what experience they have, and the management. So one of the best examples I've ever read, ever even heard of for a pitch of a business is a gentleman in the United States, and he went to his friends and family, and they were all, you know, 60, 70 years old. They were retired, and they had a bunch of money in the bank. And he told them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy this golf course, this property, and it's next to 3 other golf courses, which we're also going to buy. And he tells them this, I'm going to use company A, and he throws down a 12-inch ring binder, and they're going to manage the project and renovate and set me up. And they've got all this experience, and they've got this history, and it's all in the binder. You can take a look at that. And then I'm going to use company B, and he throws another 12-inch ring binder, and they're going to do all the marketing and all the branding and all the service stuff, and they're going to handle that. And my friend, forget the friend's name, he's going to do all the business development stuff because that's what he does in his firm for over 40 years, and he's really good at it. And I'm going to do all the financing because that's my job. The guy was a finance manager in his day job. It took him about 15 minutes to talk to each of his friends. He talked to a total of 8 people. By the end of that, he had raised $34.7 million. So think about that for a second. It took him maybe a few hours to talk to each of these people. Having your solid pitch, knowing your project, and knowing your management, these can get your projects funded. So outside of those traditional sources of money, there's a couple other things I have on the right side here. You can go to capital lending through merchant companies. You can go to, I don't recommend it, but you can do it if it's right for you. You can go through business lending programs in BDC. You can go to microloans and GoFundMe and all these other newfangled stuff. When they like you enough, especially organizations and private lenders like BDC who have mentorship and they really put you through your paces with the business plan, when they like you enough, you can get a lot of money from them as long as you're willing to pay them back on their terms. So especially when you're raising your own capital, make sure you have everything, every I crossed and every T dotted, and that your details are in a row because it's important that you manage your finances like that. There are also deferred card payments, loans from online sites, and microloan programs, and they're all variations of what I've talked about so far, so I'm not going to spend too much time on those. They all have similar risks and rewards, and if you have any questions about any of that, just let me know and I'll be around. Hopefully I'm going to get to talk to everybody. I haven't quite managed that yet. So I have left out a couple obvious sources of capital, and it's due to a personal bias. So I'll cover those really briefly with you guys. Home equity loans are one way to raise a large chunk of capital in a hurry. I hate them. I really only hate them because it gets cold here in the winter, and I don't want you to risk losing your house. Does that make sense? Say yes.
Yeah.
Good. Hopefully, maybe global warming will take that excuse out of my arsenal, but please don't keep your house. Keep your house. The other thing that I haven't talked about is RSP loans. If you've been working for 20, 30, 40 years and you've got money socked away in a retirement plan, you can, even if it's locked in, you can get it out for a business investment. There are ways to do that. I don't want you to do that because I want you to have money to buy food. Okay? Say yes. Good. Good. You can get positive results with these things. I'm not going to tell you to do it. And if you are thinking about doing it, sit down with somebody, me or somebody else, I don't care, and really work out the numbers. Okay? Nobody answered. We'll get there. Okay. So there are also entrepreneurial programs that you can take advantage of. That's more of a modern concept than we have now. But I want to touch on these because you can do some amazing things with organizations like Futurepreneur. There are some religious organizations, some non-governmental, non-profit stuff. There are a lot of different pots that you can tap into, and everybody has a little bit of money that they're willing to give out. There are also entrepreneurial competitions, idea competitions, and all kinds of little contests all over the country, in fact all over the world, that you can tap into if you have a great idea and you believe in it and you're willing to chase them. I've seen people start amazing businesses like that. If you've ever heard of Johnny's Sticky Buns, he started that entire business by going around to all these different little contests with his coach and winning a bunch of them. And eventually he attracted investors, and eventually he started his business, and now if you haven't tried Johnny's Sticky Buns, I definitely recommend you find them. We're nearby. Okay, I'm talking a little bit fast because we're a little bit behind time, so if you do have questions, find me afterward. And if you do want to say stuff to me and I ignore you, I apologize. It's not because I don't like you, it's just because I'm trying to get through everything. So I hope you got some value from all that. I know there's a lot of information in there to take in, and I'm running through it pretty quickly. The next topic I have for you all comes up when your business is running and profitable. So once you're working, and especially once you start making money, you need to protect your ability to do so, right? This is important. Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. You guys can do that on your own, though. You don't need me to keep. It's okay. We'll get it. So whether you're a single guy like me, or married with a partner, or children, or anyone who's going to depend on your income, it's you need to be able to protect it. So the question you probably have for me is, Jonathan, how do I protect my ability to make income? It's a weird thing to think about sometimes. And my answer to that is simple. It's 2 words. Write this down. Get insurance. Do it. Okay. Insurance is the #1 most cost-effective, most efficient way of protecting your income, even above leveraging actual assets that you have. So there are a lot of people who say, I'm not going to worry about this, because if anything happens to me, the family can sell the house, or the family can sell the gold bars I have in the basement. That's a great plan, except there's a better one. Now there are 2 caveats to insurance, and you should also write these down. The things that matter with insurance are your age and your health. When we're talking about disability protection, sometimes also what you do for work comes into play. So really quickly, there are 2 or 3 insurable circumstances that are important for small business owners. You can't make money when you're dead. Most people can't make money when they're disabled. And you can't make money when you're critically ill. So those are the 3 things, especially for small business owners, that I like to look at. Now, life insurance is easy to find. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I already kind of went into it. It can be very, very cheap, and the biggest issue with life insurance is just getting it soon enough. Because if you get it when you're young enough and healthy enough, you can basically have your life covered forever. And we can talk about it after, but it's so easy. Critical illness and disability protection are the things people usually don't have, and there's a lot more serious to those. So when I die and I have life insurance, my family's going to be taken care of, right?
Yes.
Okay, good job. I didn't say anything that time. Even if I die and I don't have life insurance, if I hand my wife and son a profitable business, I don't have a wife and son, I made that up. If I hand my family a profitable business, they'll probably be okay, right?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, you and I should talk. If I leave my family nothing, if I have no life insurance and I have no business, then we have a problem, so we should figure that out. So thinking about that, how many of you have protected yourselves, your families, and your businesses from something like if you get cancer? Okay, like 3 people. So I expect a line after I'm done for us to take care of this. I'm not joking. How about if you become disabled? Anybody protected? There was a couple more that time. Good, good. Here's the issue. Did you know about 40% of working people in their 20s in the last few years have gone on disability? That's crazy because they're in their 20s. That means for those families that their financial future, basically their entire future, is seriously in danger. Even if you're not working for a month, if your cash flow in your business is really tight, that can destroy your entire life. And all because you didn't think to protect yourself. I mean, this is a problem. So usually this isn't taught in schools, and there's no college of business ownership that tells you you have to protect yourself in the event you can't work. We all go into business with the idea that we're going to work in our business until it's awesome and automated, and then we go retire on a beach somewhere. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. It really is up to the individuals to seek out this information and sit down with somebody and get themselves covered. So does that all make sense?
Yes.
I didn't even. Good job. Okay. You guys are awesome. So I get a little heated about this because I've sat down with people who, and there aren't enough of them, but I sit down with people who do think about disability and critical illness, and the number one thing that they tell me is that it's expensive. They're not sure if they can afford it. Here's what you may not know. It's a lot more expensive to need it and not have it. It's a problem. So when you set up your plan with a professional advisor and it's tailored to your needs, it can actually be pretty cheap, about the cost of a cup of coffee per day. So my usual question to those people is, I realize money's important, we all need it to live. It's not as important as oxygen, but it's up there. Is it worth spending a couple dollars today so that you don't have to worry about it tomorrow? And then they look at me like, oh, God. But it's good, it protects them. So the other thing I should mention is also about mortgage insurance. Does anyone happen to have mortgage insurance? And it's okay, you can raise a hand, I'm not going to bite in. You should also talk to me. In a lot of cases, the people who sell mortgage insurance and the people who pay mortgage insurance are seriously disconnected. And there's really only one reason to have mortgage insurance. But unfortunately, the sellers don't know that. Most of them aren't taught about it. They know they try and protect you because that's the good thing to do. But in a lot of cases, life insurance is cheaper and better. So if you have mortgage insurance, we should talk about the whys, and maybe it's set up the right way. But if it's not, we can definitely help you out. So the last part of this topic is just quickly touching on property and liability and key person insurances. I know I'm spending a lot of time on insurance, but I really think it is important, especially for business owners and entrepreneurs, to protect yourselves. We never really know what can happen. Sheila rolled her car, and I really wish she was here so she could back me up on this, but you don't see things like that coming. It's just like having health insurance. I don't plan, or auto insurance. I don't plan to get in a car accident. I don't plan to roll my vehicle. But when I do, it's really nice to have those things. So the last thing I'll talk about then is the property insurance. Property insurance protects you when your property is damaged, whether that's your business equipment or your personal property or what have you. Liability insurance protects you when something goes wrong that is associated with your product or service. For example, if I give somebody really terrible financial advice and they sue me, I have liability insurance. That'll never happen, but I'm happy to have it anyway. And the last one is key person insurance. If you run, especially if you run a sales business, and your top salesman is just awesome and he sells like $500,000 in merchandise every year, you pay him really well because he's really good at it, or she. And then God forbid they have a heart attack. Now what are you going to do? Key person insurance allows you to cover the cost of replacing that person. You can find somebody just as good, if not better. Not that our people are replaceable in any way, but it gives you a little bit of income to solve that problem. Does that all make sense? Awesome. Everybody nodded. I like this. This is good. So how am I doing here for time? I will hurry up. So I will try not to go over time too much, but the last thing I wanted to talk to you about today I can't actually go into much detail about. It's basically about protecting and investing money. And I will tell you from up front that investment has risk. I'm going to read this out because I wrote it. I really like it. Investment has risk, and if you are looking to invest money, you should sit down with an advisor, myself, or someone privately to discuss a specific plan of action. What I'm about to tell you are some suggestions I've used and advised people to use in the past, and listen to this. I absolutely forbid you to use them yourself without talking to a professional first. Okay? I have had people who listen to me and then say, I'm going to go invest based on what you said. And without sitting down with you and figuring out what your goals and needs are, that is a terrible, terrible idea. Please don't do it. Also, don't get me into trouble. I'd really appreciate that. So to start with, these days there's a lot of flexibility in what you can invest in and how much. You can start investing with as little as $5 into something that has some pretty high yields. It's really exciting. There are all kinds of options from GICs and stocks and bonds and houses and equities and insurance and gold bars and businesses and financing, and I could honestly stand here all day and make a list and I still wouldn't be finished by the time we have to leave. What's more important than the product you invest in are the elements of investing themselves. So hopefully I can put this, I had slides, oops, forgot. So these are the key elements of investing, and they are the rate of return, which is not the interest rate, the time, I'll get into that, it gets a little complicated there, and the expenses, the taxes and fees you pay to invest your money. So the importance of your rate of return cannot be overstated. If you know you're getting an interest rate in your investment account, or if you know the return on investment in your real estate deal or whatever you're investing in, you can calculate your rate of return. So let's say your rate of return is 200%. That's pretty good, right? 200%. But it takes you 20 years to get that. Is that a good investment? No. Please, the answer to that one is no. That's no good. That's like 2% a year. Yeah. Okay. Then I'll make it really, really simple. It takes you 20 years to double your money. Is that a good thing? Even if it's $1, it's not a good thing. You don't want to wait 20 years. Basically, the way, I hope I put the slide in here, the way you calculate your rate of return is very, very simple. You take the current value, your $1, you subtract the original value, your 50 cents that you invested, and you divide it by your $1. Can you do that math? Is that okay? No. You can call me. I'll do that math. That's okay. Awesome. Now that calculates your dollar cost, but there are other factors to consider. If your rate of return is 200, or I said that, that's fine. And a good example is this. And I actually did make this slide, I remember. So Kevin, I'm going to borrow you here for our example. You're in my slide. I didn't have time to put a picture of you, I apologize. But let's say Kevin and I are 30 years old. I'm going to aim this up a little bit. Let's say we're 30 years old, and we each want to invest some money. So January 1st, I put away $2,500, and I do that every year for 35 years until I'm 65. Okay? And I found a pretty good rate of return. I'm getting 10%. I'm doing okay. Now, Kevin, on the other hand, invested his $2,500 into property. Oops, that's in the wrong order, but that's all right. And he bought a couple houses and kept paying the mortgages on them, but they were in Florida and a hurricane took them, and that was it. So 5 years later, he decided, John keeps getting interest on his money. I'm going to put it in the same
And I
place.
just want to explain briefly the reason that I got into the profession that I did. My accent gives it away that I'm actually from England, hopefully, not Australia, because apparently people do get our accents mixed up. On June the 16th, in 1998, me and my husband were involved in a motorbike accident. It was a single bike accident. I was on the back of him. We were on the Queen's Bazaar estate in Scotland. Nobody else was involved. It was a low-speed accident. Long story short, bike went from underneath us. Bike flipped, hit me in the face, split my helmet. I sustained a fractured skull, and my brain hit the front of my skull so hard after the impact, it damaged my olfactory bulb, which is responsible for your smell and taste, and I was mentioning to somebody earlier. It left me with zero sense of smell, zero sense of taste. So remember when you have a really bad cold and you can't taste anything? That's what I was like. My neurosurgeon that was responsible for me at the time was one of the top 2 in the UK. I spent a week in the neurological ward in Aberdeen. We got home a few days after I was discharged, and I had bleeding in the cerebral fluid in my brain. The only way for that bleeding to dissipate was to hit every nerve on my spine. I collapsed outside the hospital, couldn't walk. So the next morning I woke up, and considering I got no overnight bag, I was face down in the bed, drooling on my pillow, and my bare ass pointing to the ceiling, and I looked up and there was about 9 trainee doctors staring at me. I'm like, great, I couldn't feel really any worse. So the nurse said to me, you're really lucky. And I'm like, how do you work that one out? And she says, well, Dr. Hope is one of the 2 top neurosurgeons in the country. So after 6 months, he discharged me on the last appointment. It was the only appointment I ever had without my husband being present. Oh, just backtracking, he got a bruise on his leg after the motorbike accident. I got a fractured skull. So the last appointment that I had with my neurosurgeon, he went through all the questions, and then he said, oh, have you regained any of your sense of smell and taste? I said, no. And he said, oh, you'll never get that back. So that was a bit of a shock, because it was that finality of the comment. So I came outside and sat in the car, burst into tears. I'm thinking, I went to university, studied nutrition, hospitality management, food production, food manufacturing. This is my profession, and all of a sudden I can't smell, I can't taste. How can I have any enthusiasm for life or even for my clients and my job? So we moved to Canada in February 2004, and we said we both worked in normal jobs, real jobs, and we retrained and certified. So I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and not long ago I actually reconnected on LinkedIn with my neurosurgeon, and I anything to prove him wrong, because I actually connected with him and said, hey, I've made some considerable lifestyle changes, like nutrition, fitness, health, and I have actually regained quite a lot of the senses of my taste, and I've regained a little bit of the sense of smell. So I am actually able to go out and enjoy like meals, but it took years and years and years of like retraining like my body. So the senses on my tongue still work, so the bitter, sour, sweet, sugar, but I didn't know what anything was. It was horrible. So I've been making notes, and I've sat here, and I appreciate that like everybody in this room is a business owner, and insurance is important as a business owner. Having the money to run the business is important. Networking is important. All aspects of our business are really, really important, but what is the one thing that you need to run your business? What is the priority? Your health. Exactly, yeah. If you haven't got your health, you can have all the money and all the knowledge in the world, but if you haven't got your health to run your company, then like you're not going to be successful, you're not going to be profitable.
And you got 10 minutes to spend it.
Yeah. And I actually opened a studio in Dugald. I live in the Orange Springfield in Great Hill Park. And I opened that at the beginning of 2013. And to make a story really, really short, I was working exceptionally long days. I was running boot camps at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I was still at my studio at 9 o'clock at night. And everybody says, oh yeah, put in as many hours now because I'll sleep when I'm dead. No, you're going to just, if you do that, you're just going to die sooner because we really, really need our sleep. And I trashed my own health in a bid to improve everybody else's. I worked crazy long hours. I taught classes. I did my nutrition programs. I got frozen shoulders in both shoulders at the same time. So does anybody know what frozen shoulder is? Yes, yeah. So apparently, women in their 40s, it's quite common to get frozen shoulders in one shoulder, but then apparently you recover and get it in the other. I got it in both at the same time. My range of motion was this. I couldn't dress myself. Like, I don't have children, but you know, like when you're a kid and you put your arms up like this and your mum has to pull your top on, put that. My husband had to dress me. He did say that in the guy manual, guys get taught how to take a bra off, but they don't get told how to put one on. So that totally confused him. He had no idea. So I'm like, I can't do this. You're going to have to. You're going to have to learn. Watch YouTube. So basically, I trashed my own health in a bid to improve everybody else's. And the one thing that I did was I wasn't working hard. I was working harder, not smarter. And the one thing I was compromising is my sleep. And when it comes to health, sleep is the one thing above anything else that you need to ensure longevity and to ensure optimal health. And being awake is actually catabolic, and being asleep is anabolic. So when we're awake, we're breaking things down. When we're asleep, we're building things back up. So like I say, I'm going to refer to my notes because, especially when it comes to nutrition, and I'm oh, squirrel, sparkly, I just go off with a tap. So and like I say, I did have a PowerPoint presentation, but I just want to kind of keep everything condensed. So when we're actually awake and we're performing our day-to-day activities, we're thinking, we're concentrating, we're actually producing a lot of waste. So our lymphatic system is responsible for removing toxins out of our body. And when it goes to our brain and removing waste from our brain and all the toxins that build up in the day, that blood-brain barrier is very protective. And there's a lot of cellular bouncers that can spot a fake ID a million miles off and they won't let things in and out that shouldn't be going in and out. And it's the lymphatic system that is responsible for removing those toxins that build up during the day throughout our activities, thinking, breathing. And basically the lymphatic system will help to repair, get rid of the toxins that appear in our brain during the day. So sleep is important because we all know, or hopefully you all know, our brain runs on glucose. We need glucose to function and for our brain to work. But sleep deprivation over just a 24-hour period can reduce the glucose, available glucose stores in our brain. So people who desperate quick fixes, 1st of January, trying to lose 10, 20 pounds, whatever, liquid calorie diets. Liquid calories will actually increase your weight, not decrease it. Because if you're having liquid calories, seriously, who can get excited by a protein shake in a bottle? I mean, seriously, you should. No, well, I mean, the look like Kevin's obviously like different. But it's not really exciting to look at. I mean, it's not exciting to smell. You touch the plastic, like it's not exciting. Kevin's obviously different. And you miss the mastication with chewing. So you've missed the cephalic phase in the brain. You've missed that chewing sensation. So basically, you've missed 2 vital stages of digestion. By the time it gets to your gut's not ready for it. It's not ready to accept the food. I mean, protein powders, they're not real food anyway. So, no offense, Kevin. And so basically, you've missed 2 vital stages of digestion. And so the food is not real food. You've drank it, and your body's not ready to actually take it on board. And so it is possible to gain weight by just walking past that bakery and smelling the food. It really is, because you've missed that cephalic phase of digestion. And you know, I said that when we're sleep deprived, that we lose 6% of the glucose stores in our brain. Well, our prefrontal cortex and our parietal cortex are the parts of the brain that are responsible for thinking, critical decision making, social interaction, and generally just like how our cognitive abilities like function. So when we're sleep deprived as well, those parts of our brain can lose up to 14% of glucose stores, and it's going to negatively affect how we think, how we make decisions, how we interact with other people. So as business owners, like, we need to be aware of how we react with others, but also how our employees are responding. I work with corporate clients. As I said, I do work with some private clients one-on-one still, which I'll just cover briefly afterwards. But with the corporate clients, with being a cancer coach, I am certified and trained in psychosocial health. And so I work with corporate clients to address the psychosocial hazards in the workplace. I know I was chatting to somebody earlier. And so I go into corporations and to employees and say, okay, I'm not here to replace any wellness initiative that you've already got in. I'm here to complement what you do. So I put proposals to people and they go, oh, we've got our wellness covered. So I say, okay, how do you address the psychosocial hazards in your workplace? And they go, what are they? And I'm like, obviously you don't address them. Psychosocial hazards are not physical hazards, but they are the hazards that affect the mental health and the mental well-being of your employees. And fatigue is the #1 psychosocial hazard that is costing Canadian employers $330 million annually in lost productivity. So fatigue is one of the #1 contributors to decreased profitability with companies, because productivity goes through the floor, performance goes through the floor, staff are not present. And so psychosocial hazards are such a key issue to address. And as business owners, who here's got a mentor like that they use? Like, yeah, mentors are great. My husband and I work together. Well, I've got a mentor, and I always remember what she told me from day one. She said, you can't be everything to everybody. And that stuck with me. So I agree that there's people that do quite a few different tasks, but you should do one thing and do it very well. And although a holistic nutrition background, and I do work with private clients, my thing and what I do very well is addressing the psychosocial hazards in the workplace for corporations, and I focus on fatigue. And fatigue is also a #1 contributor towards depression. And I do actually have to read the name of this, because I can't actually remember the name of it. If I can actually find it in my notes. Say what I can't. Because I don't want to keep going on. So fatigue, sleep deprivation is a #1 contributor to depression. And the World Health Organization have predicted that by 2020, so what, 3 years' time, the leading cause of disease globally, the second cause of disease globally will be depression. Now, that is like quite a scary thought, less than 3 years. And depression can be tackled not just through sleep and correcting sleep patterns, but it really, really is a #1 contributor to the onset of depression. And my presentation was going to cover that in a little bit more detail, but obviously if anybody wants one of my brochures, take it off me, because I can obviously give you more information on that. But you really do have to focus and prioritize your sleep if you want optimal health and optimal performance. So you don't work harder, you work smarter, but we should be sleeping smarter as well, and really addressing that we do need to eat the right food and to manage our health and our weight, and we have to be conscious of what with our body. But sleep is the #1 contributing factor to overall health. So I hope I've given you just a little bit of information on how it's not move more and eat less. If you want optimal health and optimal weight, sleep. You've got to sleep your way to health, and sleep is for life at the end.